Hey guys, I'm just testing this out really fast to see if this works. Okay, it does. Let me just fix my hair. But it is. Okay, so today is January 1st, and I swore I was going to film this and upload this before the new year, but I did not get around to it. So this is my 5-star books for 2022 video. I need to get this situated first. I'll be right back. Okay. We're back with 18 5-star books. As you can tell, I'm in my new apartment. I just moved like a week ago, and this room is still empty. And everywhere else is a mess. You can see some stuff here, but sorry. So there might be a little echo, sorry about that, but we're just gonna dive right in, go chronologically through the year, my 5-star books. I have 18 total, so I'm gonna try and go through them quickly so this video isn't super long. First book is Redeeming Love. I reread this every year. I will reread it again this year. It's always 5 stars. I always love it. It's a really great book. They made it into a movie this year. The movie's okay, but the book is really good, so I recommend. Yeah, it's Christian fiction and I really enjoy it. Francine Rivers does a great job. I love a lot of her other books as well. Next, I read the whole ACOTAR series, but A Court of Mist and Fury and A Court of Silver Flames were my 2 5-star ones out of the whole series. The whole series is good, but those 2 books specifically are like just amazing, well done, and 5 stars. I think I have a whole video talking about A Court of Mist and Fury and all that stuff, so I'll link that somewhere because I go way more into depth about what I think about them and all that stuff. Sorry about that. My card was full. So my next book is The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. They are making this into a show, I believe, or a movie, but this was the first Beth O'Leary book that I read, and it's just really good. It's sweet and it is a romance, but there's more to it than that. It was like, I don't know, just really good. And if you like romance, I think you should check it out. It's really good. Next is a reread that was a 5-star book last year, so obviously it's a 5-star book again. Always very good beach read. I don't want to talk about it too much. I'm sure everyone knows. It's really good. If you want to hear me talk about it more, you can watch last year's 5-star books because I talked about it then. Next is Book Lovers, which was Emily Henry's new release. And so I read Beach Read in preparation for Book Lovers coming out, and I loved Book Lovers, obviously 5 stars because I'm talking about it in this video. Something about the relationship between the sisters was really like cool and special to me because I have a really close relationship with my sister. We're moving in together, and we're just really close. So I loved having that part of it. But also Emily Henry just writes the best books, and I'm so excited for her new book, Happy Place, that's coming out this year. I think it's gonna be good. I pretty much love anything that she makes, so I'm excited. Next, we have Portrait of a Scotsman, which this kind of surprised me when I was going back through because I do not remember liking this book that much, but apparently I really did. This is a whole series called A League of Extraordinary Women, and this is the third one, and I really liked it. It's kind of Bridgerton vibes, but it's like a feminist take on it. They're like in the women's movement, and yeah, if you love Bridgerton and like Regency era stuff, I read a lot of that this year. I've talked about those, so I can do recommendations for that, but this one was really good, and this whole series is really good, but this one especially, 5 stars. Next, we have Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren, and this book had been recommended to me like for a while, and I just never gotten around to reading it, and I finally picked it up this summer. So good. Christina Lauren has written some other stuff that I really liked, but this one was especially good. It's like second chance, childhood friends to lovers, romance, and I think it's just really well done. And I loved it a lot. Every Summer After is my next 5-star book, and this is another like summertime book. I read these all over the summer while I was at home. I was flying through romance books. This one's really good and very similar to Love and Other Words. It's like childhood, friends to lovers, second chance romance, very good. And this was her debut novel, and she has another one coming out this year that I'm really excited about, so I can't wait to see what she comes out with next. Next, this one was a complete shock to me, Red, White, and Royal Blue. I love romance, but I mostly read straight romance because I'm straight, but I picked this up. It's LGBTQ, it's gay, the main characters are gay, and I loved it. Surprisingly so, like crying in parts of it, their romance and like everything was just so sweet, and I like really got behind them. They're making a show out of this as well, and I'm really excited for it. It's the first son of the United States, so the president's son and the Prince of England, and they fall in love. So good. I highly recommend. Next, I have The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This one is your typical like bodyguard, and the person they're protecting pretend to be dating so that to protect him, the person, but the woman is the bodyguard, so it's kind of like a switch on the traditional way of that, and I thought it was so good. It was another romance that I read this summer, like just really good. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, so it was kind of surprising to me that. This was a reread, The Love Hypothesis. This was 5 stars last year, it's 5 stars again. I really enjoy it. I've talked about it before, so I won't talk about it a lot, but I reread reread that in preparation for reading her new book, Love on the Brain. And this one was 5 stars. The thing about Allie Hazelwood is she writes the same characters. She's just turning her fan fictions into novels and getting them published, and if you don't like The Love Hypothesis, you won't like Love on the Brain. They're very similar. I loved Love Hypothesis. I liked Love on the Brain. But if you don't like one, you probably won't like the other. Or you might really like one, but then you're like, okay, that was enough for me. I don't need to read another story that's the same plot line. And that's okay too, because sometimes that's true. She does have a 3rd book coming out this year. I'll be interested to see how it is. I'm sure it's going to be similar, but I'll obviously read it because I love her first 2 books. So next one is Lessons in Chemistry. This one was definitely a standout The thing is, the ones that are later in the year, I remember more clearly reading and really loving, and this one I read and really loved. There's kind of a feminist role to it. It's set in the 1950s. She's a scientist. She's a woman in STEM, similarly to the Allie Hazelwood books, but much different. It's more historical fiction. I loved it. It was really, really good. So definitely check that out. And I think they're also making this into a show or a movie. Brie Larson is going to be in it, and I'm also excited to see that. Next, You, Me, Everything. This is another romance. I think my thing that I really loved this year was like summer romances that have like a secondary plot that's not just the romance. So this one, there's a single mother. She's struggling with her mom being very sick, and she goes on a vacation with her son. It's just really good, like tugs on the heartstrings, but there's also the like good romance aspect of it. So I think the combo of that really drew me in this year, and I loved it. So 5 stars, obviously. Next, I have The Do-Over, which this is a young adult romance. So they're in high school, and it's a time loop situation, which I don't usually love, but I really enjoyed it in this one. And Lynn Painter wrote a book that was a 5-star book for me last year. She wrote Better Than the Movies, which I loved. And so I knew I was gonna love this one as well, and I did. She does really good making her characters relatable. Even though I'm not in high school anymore, I still felt like I could relate to the characters. So I approve of this young adult book, and it's good for younger audiences. Some of the romance books that I read are not, so keep that in mind. Next, I have Light Lark. This is a fantasy romance. It's young adults. There is some sex scenes, but it's like closed door, so take that with a grain of salt. I really enjoy fantasy. I didn't read as much fantasy as I have in the past. Actually, I take that back. I reread all of the Heroes of Olympus books, the Percy Jackson ones, which I call that fantasy. I did ACOTAR and this, and those are like big chunks. I also read Outlander, which I would call fantasy, and that one was 4.5 stars. It's close to 5, but didn't make the cut. That one was a monster book to read. It was almost 900 pages, and it took me a while, but I really enjoyed it. Anyway, getting off track. This was a fantasy book that I really enjoyed. I'm hoping maybe I'll read some more fantasy books in the new year than I did in 2022, because I really like fantasy. And as I mentioned, I reread the Heroes of Olympus books, which is like the Percy Jackson, but part 2, where it's the Greek and Roman gods. And I love those. But the last one, Blood of Olympus, it really got to me. For some reason, like maybe it's some of the nostalgia. I don't know if the first time I read this, I didn't have Goodreads, so I wasn't like rating them, but it really got to me this time, where I was like crying like several times, where I was tearing up, and like it was just really powerful. And I think Rick Riordan is an amazing writer. I love a lot of his stuff. So yeah, that was my last 5-star book. 18 5-star books for the year, some rereads, but if it's a 5-star book, chances of me rereading it are high. That's kind of how I judge 5-star books. If I would reread it, I give it 5 stars. So some of them are rereads and still 5 stars. But Happy New Year. Thank you for following me on my reading journey. I read a total of 96 books this year. I really was trying to push for 100, but I didn't quite make it. So I set my goal for 2023 to be 96 books. My goal for this year was 72, and I surpassed it by a lot. So we'll see how I go with a new goal of 96. Hopefully I can surpass it, get 100, but we'll see. And I'm excited for the books that I'll read this year. There's a lot of good stuff coming out that I'm excited about. They're making movie and TV show adaptations of a lot of my favorites, so I can't wait to watch all of those. But Happy New Year, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys. Mwah.